the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, June 26th. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by Jason Cabrera. Jason, what's up, man?
How's it going, man? Griffin's on for a show. I apologize. I'm back.
Hey.
But don't apologize too much because I'm going to miss the next one. That's okay, though. I'll be back again.
Boo.
Back again.
It's okay. Maybe
Hey,
CJ will come back from his hiatus, and we'll have, people on Thursday or Friday, rather. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That'd be nice. See him. He's at camp. I don't know. What's a camp we haven't talked about yet? I don't know. We'll come up with it. Onomatopoeia. What was the salute your shorts camp? I don't know.
I don't know that one.
Whatever. Anyway, let's move on. Today we have an amazing show for you guys today. Today we're going to be typing I think it's a topic that people don't quite understand, because we'll talk about some of these players that we're going to talk about today, and they're like, what's wrong with you? Why would you talk about these guys? And we'll get into it. But we're talking post-hype sleepers. Not just regular sleepers, post-hype ones. These are players that are going to be driven down, they're not just overlooked, but driven down your draft boards based on things that happened a year ago. So we'll get to that. Before we get to that, make sure you guys subscribe wherever you're listening on Google and the Apple Podcast app and Podcast Addict and everywhere, really. We're all over the place. And if you want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourselves bonus perks. And really help us keep these lights on, keep doing what we're doing. So with that, one little bit of news that we have to get to before we get to our topic of the post-type sleepers, because we're gonna hit it hard today. We're gonna give you guys the facts. We're gonna get out of here. We have our NFL Top 100. So if you didn't watch last night, you want to go home and watch your DVR recording, then maybe skip ahead about 5 minutes. But just rapid fire. Number 10, we have Aaron Rodgers, quarterback for Green Bay. Number 6 a year ago, slight drop, which is kind of interesting because certain players that were hurt didn't even make the list. Though I don't think anyone would deny that Aaron Rodgers is a top 10 player in this league, so fair enough. Yeah. Von Miller came in at number 9, linebacker for Denver, number 2 a year ago. Number 8, Drew Brees over Aaron Rodgers, probably because he was healthy. Quarterback for New Orleans, number 16 a year ago. I love Drew Brees, though, so I'm not mad at it. Number 7, we have Aaron Donald, defensive tackle for the Los Angeles Rams, 15 a year ago. Number 6, Todd Gurley, running back, Los Angeles Rams, unrated a year ago. Can't say I'm surprised. He had a horrible 2016 season, so
yeah,
makes sense. But yeah, welcome to the top 10 there, Todd Gurley. At number 5, Le'Veon Bell, the highest running back on this list. So, I mean, again, not terribly surprised by that. Number 9 a year ago. Number 4, Julio Jones, wide receiver, Atlanta Falcons.
Man.
As far as real-life football goes, he's awesome. It's for fantasy. It doesn't really translate.
Yeah.
Number 3 a year ago, so actually dropped a spot. So how about that? This one shocked me, especially for missing 3 games. Number 3, Carson Wentz, quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. I know he was amazing, and he was on this record, MVP conversation pace, but, I mean, holy hell, number 3, that's awesome. I mean, congrats to him. So that's cool.
Glad CJ is not here.
Yeah, that's probably, it's probably for the best CJ's not here. So we'll just leave it there. Number 2, we have Antonio Brown, highest rated wide receiver for, obviously, the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was number 4 a season ago, and your number 1 player. He was number 1 a year ago. He maintains that positioning, and that is quarterback for the New England Patriots, Tom Brady. I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. So, yeah, Tom Brady. That is your NFL Top 100. We ran through all of them as they came out week by week. So don't really want to deep dive on this too much because, as Jason and I and CJ talk about all the time, there's not much to take away from this. This is really nothing to do with 2018. It's all just a popularity contest based on 2017, recent memories. We talked about a couple players that are overlooked, but I think only one bears noting. I think there's quite a few.
One definitely bears noting.
Yeah, there's
one most definitely bears noting.
There's a lot of notable ones, but definitely one.
So ridiculous.
You want to tell them who that is? I'm sure they all know.
Oh, I think they know. If they come on this show at all, they know who I'm talking about. David Johnson is not in the NFL Top 100. That is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. There is no excuse for that. That is disrespectful. And I'll tell you something else. I hope this motivates him. I hope he sees this and this motivates him to come in and absolutely destroy the league like he did 2 years ago when he went 2,000 yards from scrimmage. Okay? This guy should be on this list, even if he was down the list. And to me, he's a top 10 player. But even if he was down the list in the middle of, really, David Johnson can't make 50 on this list?
I mean, he can't make
60 on this list?
Yeah, I agree. He had his great season a year ago, and he placed 12th, so not even a top 10. So, but either way, yeah, I thought he'd at least be down low. I mean, obviously he missed basically the whole season, so maybe that had something to do with it. But I was looking back over the list, and obviously Odell Beckham Jr., who missed a good chunk. He, what was it? He was in 77, I think it was. So.
Yep.
I don't know. Again, there's not much to take away from this
amazing.
list. I'm just very surprised that he didn't crack the list. I mean, there's a number of
at all
fantasy relevant players that moved down a lot, a couple that missed the list altogether. We could get into the IDP side of things and debate a lot of really big defensive players who didn't make the list, but then we'd be here for hours, and we'll just move on. So, yeah, the NFL Top 100 has been revealed. And not much for us to take away from it, so we're simply going to move on to why you are all here, and that is our topic of the day, our post-hype sleepers. So before we get into this, so people don't get mad and start coming at us and be like, wait, what are you talking about? Why are you bringing up this guy? Yada, yada, yada. Let's break down what a post-hype sleeper is. Now, these are not all guys. We've done an early sleeper show, and those are all guys that are going the late double-digit rounds, guys that are going undrafted, things of that nature. We're going to be talking about some guys who are going as early as the third round here, and that's because a post-hype sleeper is different from a regular sleeper. A post-hype sleeper is someone who was talked up a lot a season ago, and they let you down. Whether they got hurt, they underperformed, if, circumstances didn't work out to their favor. So these are guys that are being intentionally overlooked, pushed down draft boards because people were burned by them a year ago, which is what makes them such good deals this year. In other cases, it's situations that may have changed around that player, and so the hype may have been warranted, but we might have just been a year early. There's a lot of variables that go into what a post-hype sleeper is, but again, so when we're talking about guys going in the third round, and middle rounds and things like that, and you're like, well, that's not a sleeper, but it's a post-hype sleeper. And again, not all of these guys are like guaranteed locked and loaded things. These are guys that have interesting draft values to us, which we think are worth noting. So that's our focal point today. That's what we're looking at. And, maybe you can capitalize on some of this, because if you know the circumstances around some of these guys, you know that obviously circumstances have changed and situations have bettered themselves for a lot of these players that we're going to bring up, whether that be coaching, offensive line help, whatever the case may be. Some cases, offensive schemes just take a season or two to come into place, so that's great for fantasy because there's continuity. So whatever the case may be, that's what we're talking about today. I just wanted to preference all of what we're going to say. So with that, Jason, do you want to start or do you want me to go?
I think you should go. You got the highest rated guy.
Okay, I'll start with that third round guy. And a guy who stands out to me like a sore thumb, because there is a world where this guy finishes as a top running back, a number one fantasy running back for sure. And that is Cincinnati Bengals running back Joe Mixon. Now, I know he didn't light the world on fire last season, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and we can make excuses all day, but at the end of the day, we pointed out something going into the year last year, and that was that Joe Mixon is unbelievably talented. He could very easily be the best running back in this draft class, because obviously he was drafted last season, not this season, but he had a serious problem ahead of him. His offensive line was garbage, absolute garbage. We were saying how it was probably going to be the worst one in the entire league. Now, it more or less played out that way. If you followed him, if you drafted him, he went through some highs and lows. Ended the season with only 626 yards and 4 touchdowns rushing.
Oof.
That doesn't help. But behind that absolute garbage offensive line, he still averaged 3.5 yards per carry, and he was being hit in the backfield almost immediately. He was having that Todd Gurley effect from a year before that. So, look. The Bengals, they have recognized the problem. They have gone out there and they've made some moves. They brought in a left tackle from Buffalo in Cordy Glenn. They signed a first-round offensive lineman with Billy Price, so a center for them. They've made some moves here, guys, and they've got some guys in the wings as well. I'm not going to say that the problem is absolutely resolved, but I think that Joe Mixon, with a year under his belt, with an entire offseason to get the system going, he's put on some weight, he's got a chance to work with all these guys, and an upgraded offensive line at that. I think that he has the potential to definitely break out and to really earn. I see no way that he doesn't finish as a running back 2. And I think he definitely has running back 1 upside. He's unbelievably talented, very explosive. He can do all 3 phases. And let's not forget, the team is not the same as it was a year ago. So, I mean, obviously, Giovanni Bernard is the big point of contention here. Everyone's kind of talking about, well, they both had the opportunity, but Giovanni Bernard's been in the league for a couple years. He knew what was going on. He was ready for that adjustment. But Jeremy Hill being gone is huge because who do you think is going to be handling all that red zone work? It's not going to be Giovanni. Giovanni's more of a pass-catching downs back. I think it's going to be Joe Mixon. And they've got a lot of guys in the wings, but I think that most of these guys that they've signed, I mean, they have a 4th-round pick in Mark Walton, and then a bunch. They signed 2 undrafted rookies. They've got a couple people there that I think they're all camp bodies. I don't see anyone pushing Joe Mixon for touches, so I think he's got a very high floor. And the ceiling will be subject to how he transitions in his sophomore year, plus the offensive line. But I think that ceiling is a running back 1, and you can get him in the 3rd round right now. So if you want to go wide receiver early. Maybe that's just the way the board falls to you. If I get Joe Mixon as my number 1 running back, I'm not going to be too hurt about that in the 3rd round. I'd love to have him as my 2nd running back in a perfect world, and that's probably what I'm going to shoot for. But I'm just saying I wouldn't be too upset. What are your thoughts on this, Jason?
I completely agree with you. I mean, Joe Mixon is an absolute monster. He's the most athletic guy to come out of his draft class. He was dealt a bad hand going to Cincinnati with what we called last year as the worst offensive line in football, pretty much. This year is going to be a completely different story. They have a revamped offensive line that's going to be much better. All of their weapons are back. Okay, you've got John Ross is back from injury. He's going to be back from injury.
That's going to help a lot too.
Exactly. AJ Green's going to be back. They've got their whole team kind of their whole offense rather kind of back from limbo.
Tyler Eifert's back.
Joe Mixon.
There
you go.
Apparently he's already got some back injuries going on, so we'll see for how long. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's back for like a week. So Joe Mixon's going to get the opportunity to do what he's supposed to do, which is be the guy that facilitates this offense, moves this offense along. And I definitely see this guy as finishing as at least a 2. I think he's going to finish as a 1.
I think so too. I think we're going to be talking about Joe Mixon as a 1st-round running back next year, which is why getting him in the 3rd round is a steal. Because, as we all know, 1st round into the early 2nd round are generally a tier of players that separate themselves from the rest of your fantasy rosters, and I think Joe Mixon could be one of those guys that you're getting in the 3rd round. So yeah, I know he burned a lot of people last year. I'm going to shake that off, and I'm going to definitely take another shot at Joe Mixon because I think that he'll be massively improved this season. And the rookie, we always talk about, and especially hard for running backs making the transition because all these rookies, they basically don't get an offseason. They finish their senior year or whatever it is for them. They're coming out of college year. They go through the entire draft process. They're going into rookie mini camps. They have to go to all those rookie gatherings for like meetings and off the field conducts, this, that, the other, OTAs, then obviously training camp. They basically play for about a year and a half, 2 years straight before they get a break going into their sophomore offseason. So I think that he's going to be massively improved this season, and I just, he'll bulk up a little. He'll be ready. So and 2nd year in a system in a college offense, I like it. Bill Lazor, I think, I don't know. He could be handcuffed by that whole Marvin Lewis guy. I've never seen a team that's got as many talented players struggle as much under a head coach since Jeff Fisher, but I think that he's going to be great. I think we're going to talk about him
2.0
in a lot of ways. I think that Joe Mixon, again, as a guy we're going to be talking about as a 1st-round pick next offseason, provided he stays healthy. So that's just that. Jason, one of your guys.
Well, I got a lot of guys on here. You got a lot of guys, and we're not going to deep dive on all these guys. We were talking about this just before the show, but I will go ahead and name off one of my guys. Going in the 5th round is Marshawn Lynch. I've talked about him a little bit, and he definitely, and I'm one of the people he burned last year. He burned a lot of people last year because everybody was like, oh, my goodness, he's back. He's on a better offense. He's going to be great. And the problem was not Marshawn Lynch. The problem was they were not using him. They just decided they didn't want to hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, and that's what you have to do. He's beast mode. You got to feed the beast. And they didn't do that until near the end of the year, when he picked it up and he started getting his stats and he actually started playing like a number 1 running back. I think this year they learned their lesson. I think with John Gruden being there, that's a good thing. He wants to be that power running football team. He's an old school style coach. And I think that Marshawn Lynch is going to be the beneficiary of that. He's going to get the opportunity to get touches and slam that ball up the middle. Yes, I know about all the Doug Martin hype, but the bottom line is Doug Martin has proven that he cannot be trusted. He'll be very, very good for a couple of games, but if his motivation wanes and goes away, Marshawn Lynch is going to be the backbone of this offense, in my opinion. So I definitely like Marshawn Lynch in the 5th round.
See, Marshawn Lynch, he had 18 carries in week 1, 4.2 yards per carry on average. Not a bad start to the season.
Not bad. Yeah.
He did not have another game where he passed that threshold in rushing attempts until week 12. Week 12. He was there the whole time. Give the guy the ball. Look, I know he's ancient.
On the sideline.
Yeah. He's 32. I get that. He was 31 a year ago. He's not ancient for, I mean, he is ancient, but he's not like past the point where he's not going to be able to contribute anymore. I mean, he's still a big guy. He can still pound the ball. He wears down defenses, like you said. You can't use him sporadically. You can't use him as a gimmick piece. He's not one of those guys that you're just going to bring in for short yardage and the red zone, though, I mean, I'm sure he'll be effective there. He needs to get a rhythm. So, again, like you pointed out, once they started doing that, 26 carries, 17 carries, then a weird week where they had 7 carries, but they got, I don't know. I guess things happen. Then 16, 25, 19, and there his yardage totals went up. His touchdowns were not super consistent, but he got in more. It's just one of those things where they were like, oh, wait, we have beast mode on our team. Why don't we put that guy in? And they finally did.
Use that.
Yeah, and the offense started moving. Now, to be fair, they lost a lot of those games, which is kind of what's concerning here. But I don't think that it's too hyper concerning who's behind him. We already know that John Gruden likes to run the ball. Well, he also kind of likes to feature a guy, and he's got a featured back in Marshawn Lynch. And if he can stay healthy, I think as long as he is healthy, he's going to be the guy that's out there. We're hearing all these good things about Doug Martin, but at the end of the day, it's that time of year where you hear almost entirely good things. So we're not even sure he's going to make the team. Best shape of his life. I expect him to make the team and be the backup, but we can't forget that Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington are both there, guys that the previous regime really, really likes. So, yeah, I know it's concerning, and this is a guy who went in some drafts a lot of the time I saw in the 2nd round. So that's why taking him in the 5th, I could get your argument there, Jason. And a late 5th rounder. He's basically a 6th-round pick. So, honestly, a lot of these guys, we're talking about their averages right now among, like, the experts and things like that. In your draft, and especially in casual leagues, or if anyone got burned by these people, they're going to get pushed even further down. So that's why we're saying don't be afraid to jump on these guys where they're going.
Absolutely. And taking him in the 5th round as a running back, usually that means he's going to be your flex option. And that's a pretty darn good flex option if you got Marshawn Lynch as your flex, because he's going to hopefully get more touches this season and give you maybe even running back 1 stat.
I agree. I definitely see. I mean, I think he'll have weeks where he gets you running back 1. I don't know if I see him ending the season as a running back 1. I see him landing as probably a high-end running back 2, but either way, that's great value in the 5th round. So, yeah, Marshawn Lynch, a guy that if he stays healthy, you could be getting a steal in the 5th round. Let's see. Next guy on my list. Who do I want to talk about? I've got so many people to talk about. We have so little time to do it.
You do have some good people on here.
I'm gonna talk about this one. You know, just because we're talking about the Raiders, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna talk about Amari Cooper. Now, I know. Amari Cooper, he burned everybody last year. He was the most infuriating player in all of fantasy football. He was in contention for our dud of the year. In the end, he didn't win that award, if that is any comfort to any of you guys out there. But
because I wasn't on that episode.
You were on that episode, weren't you?
No, I wasn't.
I thought you were. I thought the whole gang was there for that one. Yeah, maybe you weren't. But we talked. Oh, I just hit my mic. Sorry. All right. So, Amari Cooper, his passing usage. 5 catches, 62 yards. 4 catches, 33 yards. 1 catch, 6 yards. 2 catches, 9 yards. 1 catch, 8 yards. 5 catches, 28 yards. That's through 6 weeks of the season. By that point, everyone, including us, wrote this guy off. He's not right. Something's wrong with him. The offense isn't working. He's not getting targets. He's definitely not getting receptions. He's not getting yardage. He's not scoring touchdowns. He scored a touchdown in week 1, and that was it. So, I mean, he looked good in week 1, and then nothing for 5 weeks after that. And then when everybody finally benches him, Week 7 rolls around, 11 catches, 210 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. Monster year. People had dropped him or traded him. They're regretting it. If you were listening to our show, I was saying, sell high, sell high, sell high, get rid of this guy. And it turned out to be the right call because he never broke triple digits again until week 17, which nobody's playing seriously in week 17. He only had his highest catch total after week 7 was 5 catches. Just putting that out there.
God.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know he's that deep guy. He's not
Julio
going to
Jones Jr.
More or less. He's that deep catch guy. He's not going to be your possession receiver. He's not going to get you double-digit catches every single game. I understand that. But, look, here's the thing. All we have been hearing since John Gruden walked in the door was how much he really, really liked Amari Cooper. And there's a good reason why we were all so high on him going into last season. His 2 previous years in Oakland, he'd averaged over 1,000 yards and about 6 touchdowns, which is a very good baseline for a guy that we're expecting to go as a low-end wide receiver 1. All we're hearing is how he's going to be the focal point of this offense. And if that's the case, you're definitely looking at a guy with a floor and a ceiling to land you. And you're probably a floor, mid wide receiver 2, a ceiling wide receiver 1. We heard all these things. Derek Carr came out and talked about how Amari Cooper was so banged up. He was amazed he was even out there. And this could all be, tropes and misdirection and making excuses. But he was saying how, most other players would not have even played with the ankle injuries that Amari Cooper had and other things that he claimed that he had. So, okay, fine. If we buy into all of that, what's changed? An offense that has now been installed, which is going to feature him. Michael Crabtree, gone. Jordy Nelson, ancient. Love Jordy Nelson to death, but what he does really well, Derek Carr really struggles with. Martavis Bryant, we're hearing, might be suspended for the whole season. Not much behind them. Amari Cooper is going to probably get a lot of volume here, and since he's going to be the focal point, this is a make-or-break year for him. This is kind of a big deal. I think he's going to be a guy that could get you a very good floor, and obviously the ceiling is incredibly high with this guy. He's going right now in the 4th round, so I think at that point you're looking at a wide receiver 2 anyway, maybe a flex option depending on how your drafting or your league needs are. I would not be opposed to taking a shot at Amari Cooper, and honestly, I expect him to be pushed even further down draft boards because I think people are going to be scared off of him. I wouldn't take him much higher than that just because, at the end of the day, we don't know. But I think that his body of work, his first 2 seasons, has earned him the benefit of the doubt that I think that he could very easily return on a mid-4th round value. Jason, what are your thoughts? Because, this guy did burn a lot of people. He's going to be very polarizing.
Yeah, he hasn't proven anything to me. He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt with me. He has to actually get out there and perform. So that's the bottom line. Yeah, he's. If you look at his end-of-year stats, you're like, oh, okay, that's not horrible, a couple of good years. But if you look at his game-to-game stats, he's garbage.
Terrible.
It's the same thing as Julio Jones. Fantastic end-of-year stats. You get the stats, like, wow, look at that. That was like 3 games. He plays 16 games in a season. I need consistency from my number 1 receiver. I am not taking him in the 4th round. Now, the only reason that I will agree with you that he could be a post-high sleeper now is because of the whole Martavis Bryant thing. With Martavis Bryant possibly being gone, I think that definitely puts the onus on Amari Cooper that he's going to get more volume going his way. Jordy Nelson is going to be more of a somebody that draws coverage and those kinds of things. And so Amari Cooper might get more volume going his direction. The problem is he drops the ball, and the problem is he's inconsistent. He won't get open sometimes. So would I take him? Yes. Would I take him at 4? No. Would I take him in the 5th round? Probably not. I would not be comfortable taking him probably until about the 6th round, in my opinion.
But remember, we were talking him up a lot last year, and he was going in the 2nd round last season. So, theoretically, let's say we buy the hype. He was really, really hurt last season. And so we wash that away. We go back looking to his first 2 seasons, and now we have a new offense which is openly saying they're going to feature the crap out of this guy. You're saying that
that's what they said about him last year.
No,
they said the same thing last year.
Not nearly as much. Because we were talking about Michael Crabtree last year and how he was being very good and consistent, and we were talking about obviously the addition of Marshawn Lynch, and we thought that Amari Cooper might benefit with some deep shots. and how it was his magical third year. But now we're hearing how the entire offense is focused around him in the passing game. So his floor to me has risen because he's going to get more targets. And then, I mean, what's changed? I mean, it's a better situation for him theoretically. So I mean, again, a second-round pick that we were talking about last year, and theoretically a better situation now going in the 4th round. That's a discount if I've ever seen one. Now, obviously, it's going to be polarizing.
Only if he returns on the value.
Only if
he returns on that second-round value,
right.
which he won't do.
But well, we're not drafting him in the 2nd round. We're drafting him in the 4th round, though, is what I'm saying. I
don't think he's going to return on that value, to be honest with you.
I don't see a way that he doesn't. Let me hold on. I mean, obviously, it's possible he couldn't, but so let's see.
I was going to say.
I want to bring up some comparisons. So players that are going in the same range as him. Let's see. Juju Smith-Schuster or Amari Cooper, a number 2 for Pittsburgh or the number 1 for Oakland. What are your thoughts there?
Juju Smith-Schuster.
All right. Amari Cooper or Alshon Jeffrey.
Alshon Jeffrey.
All right. Amari Cooper or Brandon Cooks.
Amari Cooper.
All right. So there's the threshold. Those are the lumped together wide receivers, and that they're all going very close together. So I mean, sounds like an appropriate range.
Well,
then.
I wouldn't take Brandon Cooks that high either. I mean, he's a new face in a new place. He's got a lot of mouths to feed in the offense that he's in. So that I don't like Brandon Cooks being that high.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the bottom line is this: I don't trust Amari Cooper, and you can talk to me about value and all that stuff all you want to, but until he earns my trust back, I am not going to go out and spend one of my top 5 picks on him. It's just not going to happen.
And that's, again, why he's going to be a post-hype sleeper, because some people are going to say, no, he's not going to be on my team. And I completely understand where you're coming from, Jason. I don't like boom-bust players very much, so when it comes to that, I'm with you. But, I mean, I think that he could return on that value. I think his floor is higher, and his ceiling, I don't think has changed. So I would not fault people for drafting him in the 4th round, seeing how we now has a 2-round discount on him from where he was going a year ago. And I, again, think he's in a better situation. And when it comes down to it, it's going to be up to you, the listener, to make that decision. Your team needs who you like, who you want. But, you could really lean either way here. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up actually going once draft season has come and gone. Because right now it's a lot of people like you and I drafting and mock drafting with that's producing these rankings. So I guess with that being said, Jason, you're next guy.
Now, let's see. I got a lot of people I could talk about. We were just talking about Amari Cooper. I could talk about his former cohort, Michael Crabtree, who's over there in you guys' team now, over there in Baltimore. I feel like he's going to have a really nice year.
That would be a nice transition. I like that.
Okay, I can do that. Yeah, well, here's the bottom line. To me, Michael Crabtree is going to take that Anquan Boldin style position with you guys. I think, in my opinion, it's just the way I see it. And when Anquan Boldin was with Baltimore, he led the team in receiving yards for the 3 years that he was there. So obviously, Flacco really likes to feature these kinds of wide receivers, and you haven't had anybody like that until now with Crabtree coming in. So I believe that Michael Crabtree is going to form a quick rapport with your quarterback. Flacco's going to love throwing the ball to him. It's going to be like having Anquan Boldin 2.0 out there. And I think that Crabtree could definitely – he's going right now in the 7th round, top of the 7th round. I think he could definitely return on that value. I think he's a wide receiver 2, a high-end 2. And he could return on 7, sure.
Hold on, I'm trying to bring up some stats real fast because I agree with you. And I've made this argument in the past, so keep talking for a second. Yada, yada, yada.
Okay, yeah. Well, while you're doing that, I'll go through some of the guys that I won't talk about right now.
Oh, no,
but we've mentioned the.
Oh, no.
You got it already?
We got it. We got to tease that. I needed like a second. All right, so
all right.
The 3 guys that come to mind that he is filling the role of. If we go back and we look at the Ravens' history in the Joe Flacco era, obviously his main possession guys, the guys that he featured in the offense, and he's always had burners that run opposite of them. But that would be, and again, I've made this point a number of times, so just bear with me. Derek Mason, Anquan Boldin here talking about, and Steve Smith Sr. most recently. All of these guys during their time with Joe Flacco have kind of been around 1,000 yards, and they've been somewhere in the 7 touchdown range, roughly.
Right.
Obviously, Anquan he got a little bit less yardage, more touchdowns. There's going to be a little bit of variations between them, but that's about the average, around 1,000 yards, 7-8 touchdown range. Now, I think Michael Crabtree can very easily fill that focal point in the role, that focal point role in the offense. I can get it out. I mean, he's averaged between 8 and 9 touchdowns the last 3 years. He's, last year, obviously, all of Oakland kind of fell apart, but prior to that, he was averaging around 1,000 yards, and that was with him splitting receptions with Amari Cooper, who we just talked about. Now, he's going to Baltimore, where he's going to be uncontestedly the top target in this offense. I mean, we're hearing about how Joe Flacco's raving about him. They're building a good rapport. Behind him, he's got Willie Snead, which I don't think he's going to contend for, a ton. I think he'll be out there and he'll be a part of the offense, but he's not going to contend a ton. I think he's the third receiver. John Brown is out there. He's going to be the burner, and the Ravens love to do that. Brashad Perryman, who's another burner. All these guys are going to be stretching the field more, and Michael Crabtree's going to be doing a lot of the intermediate and outside catches. He's going to get a lot of volume, is basically what I'm getting to. So I agree. I think that he's a guy that is going to return on some really nice value for you because he's going in the 7th round, like you pointed out. And he could easily return you and where he's kind of been around his last 3 seasons in Oakland as a wide receiver too. Now, that's a scary proposition. I mean, obviously the Ravens offense does not produce normally very high-level fantasy wide receivers. It's not a passing game we necessarily migrate to. But the floor has to be high here because he's going to get so much volume. So, and then the ceiling is what it is. I mean, so I agree. On a stats average base, he could easily return on a 3rd, 4th round value here, and you're getting him in the 7th round. So I really like him as a nice little post-hype sleeper, especially because people are going to be a little sour on him after what happened last year where he was going where was he going last year? Let me check really fast. He was going as a late 4th round pick. So, yeah, kind of the range we were talking about. And now, not so much. Not too happy about that, where he only put up 600-some yards. He's still got 8 touchdowns. I'm just saying. He's still got it done in the red zone. So, yeah, I agree. I like the upside of Michael Crabtree here. Anything else you want to add or talk about with him?
No, like I said, I definitely like the fit. I think he's going to work well with you guys' offense.
All right. Well, I guess with that, let's move on. I'm going to talk about there's a good one. Let's talk about Mike Williams. Now,
okay. All right.
It's I know a lot people are going to be kind of split here depending on your level of how much you really stuck with fantasy and the draft class from last season. Mike Williams, 1st round wide receiver to the Los Angeles Chargers a year ago. Now, obviously, injury concerns. He didn't have a great season. There's a lot of things that did not break his way last year. Now, that's the downside. The upside, and I know this is really sad, and I'm also glad CJ's not here because CJ would not be happy that I'm bringing this up, but somebody got hurt on the Chargers, and that would be Hunter Henry. So Hunter Henry going down, tight end, and we all knew number 1 tight end and a big red zone pass catching threat for this offense is gone. Mike Williams, a red zone threat, a big outside receiver. He's got a very different type of frame and build and skill set than I feel the other 3 main guys they have there. Now, this is a very deep wide receiver position. Sure, I agree. But Keenan Allen, PPR guy. He can go long. He's got that breakaway speed, but he's really a PPR guy. Tyrell Williams, I think, is another one of these guys that's going to be kind of that outside red zone threat. And then Travis Benjamin, kind of that in between. He runs good routes. He's speedy. Mike Williams is going to be that big target that Phillip Rivers is going to be looking for in the red zone, who's going to body out the defender that's on him and make those contested catches. That's what he's been known for. That's what his entire draft analysis going into the draft last year was about. And the opportunity is huge. Antonio Gates, we've been hearing how they've been talking with him. He still is not signed with the team. And even if he comes back, he's old man lumbering down the field. Hunter Henry, gone. I mean, Virgil Green, the next tight end up, he's more of a blocking tight end. So I don't think the tight end position is going to be as involved in the passing game. I think that Mike Williams is going to step into that role, and he could inherit himself close to double-digit touchdowns this year. The yardage, I am waiting to see, but I mean, a guy that's going in the late 11th round who could easily return to you if he gets a lot of these touchdowns, 4th, 5th round value probably. I mean, that's probably the range we'll be talking about him in next year if all breaks his way. So, 11th round pick for the guy. Well, what are your thoughts, Jason?
I completely agree with you. I think that he's a monster. He's huge. I mean, he's absolutely huge. And so putting him in that Hunter Henry role, now that they don't have a good catching tight end, he's pretty much a tight end. I mean, his size, his ability, but he's faster. So I definitely think that Mike Williams is going to be a factor this year in their offense, and getting him that late, you might look like a genius.
The dude's 6'4" is all I'm saying. He's huge.
Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah. So yeah, I like it. 11th round pick. I'll be looking for Mike Williams all day. It is a little bit of a gamble, which is why the double-digit pick is maybe justifiable because he's an injury risk. But I'll definitely roll the dice on him because I think Hunter Henry going down is just a massive boost to Mike Williams, and I'll take that chance. Jason, your guy.
Absolutely. C.J. Anderson, running back, Carolina. So, look, Carolina, people seem to forget recently, but Carolina at one point was the best rushing offense in the league. You know, when they had Jonathan Stewart and he was healthy, and you had obviously Cam Newton who liked to run the ball quite a bit. They're in a better situation now than they were then, in my opinion. They still got Cam Newton who's still going to run the ball. Now they have Christian McCaffrey, who's a slasher, who's going to get the ball out of the backfield. And now they've got C.J. Anderson, who is better, in my opinion, than Jonathan Stewart. And he is going to be the rushing threat for this team. So I think they're going to lean heavily on him. They're going to get him the ball more often. And here's the thing. He's going at the end of the 8th round for a starting running back. This guy is going to be their 1-2 down back, and he can be a 3-down back. So I really like C.J. Anderson this year. If he can stay healthy, I believe that he is going to help propel this team into being one of the best running teams in the league.
Yeah. So I've talked about this in the past, and we got a little bit of hate for this, and we've even talked about it recently. You know, Christian McCaffrey, he's got a lot of fans out there. A lot of people really like the guy, and when we talked about our rankings for him preliminarily, everyone was like, where the hell is Christian McCaffrey in your rankings? Why is he so low? And it's because we knew they weren't going to give him the full workload. We knew that no matter what, they have the vulture of a quarterback there in Cam Newton, but they needed that bruising first, second down back. C.J. Anderson fits that role. C.J. Anderson averages more yards per carry than Christian McCaffrey. There's just so many reasons why I think C.J. Anderson is going to be the lead back here. He is going to get, I think, more attempts. I mean, they may not be all the great attempts. He's going to get the short yardage stuff, though. He's going to get the goal line stuff. I really like C.J. Anderson. If he can stay healthy, he has been proven to be a very good back in this league. C.J. Anderson has never averaged less than 4 yards a carry in his career. That's all I'm saying. With the Broncos, especially the last couple seasons, quite the accomplishment. Christian McCaffrey last season, 3.7. So everybody's kind of raving about that season with Jonathan Stewart there. Now, is Christian McCaffrey going to get work? Yes, obviously. But no, Jonathan Stewart's going to be the lead back. And like you said, you're able to get him in the almost 9th round. Steal. Now, I'm not saying take this guy too much earlier than that because of all the reasons we said. Christian McCaffrey is there. He's going to vulture some touchdowns. He is going to get, they're going to do 2 running back sets, I'm sure, and it's going to get passed out to Christian McCaffrey, who's running some sort of post route. I get that. And then there's also the fact that no matter how much they try to contain this guy, because he's their franchise player, Cam Newton is going to run the ball. He's going to run a couple touchdowns in. So I think the ceiling is capped with C.J. Anderson, but the floor, I think, is much higher than basically a 9th round pick. So, yeah, C.J. Anderson, a post-hype sleeper for sure. And I don't even know if we can say post-hype. I think he's just a sleeper in general because he didn't have a terrible year last year. He had 1,000 yards. It's the 3 touchdowns that really let you down. So, yeah. Let's see. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm just looking at the clock. How we're doing.
No, I was just going to say, I think overall the fact that the Denver offense kind of struggled is kind of the reason why I would consider him to be a post-type sleeper.
I'm okay with that. I'm going to wrap up with I've got so many good ones I want to talk about. Let's wrap up with Kenneth Dixon. Now, this is a name that if you followed our show, you're probably familiar with. If not, he is a name that you might have forgotten. Kenneth Dixon was drafted by the Ravens a couple seasons ago. Ravens running back. I know. CJ was here. He'd be laughing like, oh, there's so many players there, blah, blah, blah. I get it. Here's the thing. He was brought in. He's a fourth rounder, so I mean, I'm not trying to say that he's going to be the next coming of anything, but he is expected to be, and everybody thought that he was going to go much higher in 2016's draft than he did. A lot of people thought he was a second-round talent that just kind of slipped, and I kind of saw him that way as well. He can do better universally than most of the other players on the team can do at what they specialize in. Alex Collins is a very good runner. He's not a great pass catcher. Buck Allen is a very good pass catcher, but he gets stuffed a lot when he tries to run. Not a big guy. Kenneth Dixon can do both of those things pretty well. And going into the season last year, he was being billed as the guy who was going to get the lead role, the bulk of the carries, a true leading running back. And we thought that Danny Woodhead was going to be a guy who kind of came in and spelled him, did some third down work, things of that nature. Well, times have changed. Kenneth Dixon obviously did not participate in the season last year. He's back. Danny Woodhead gone. Buck Allen and Alex Collins are guys that we like, and Alex Collins is going much higher in drafts, but Kenneth Dixon, a guy who by the start of the season, maybe halfway through it, especially if there's injuries ahead of him, could be looking at a massive workload. The Ravens love to run the ball, and he's a guy who's going in the 14th round. I mean, you're taking shots. Why not take a shot at a guy who could be the lead back once the season actually rolls around or you get a good way into it? He could be one of those guys that wins you your season because maybe he doesn't start off as the lead back, but he earns the role and ends up, towards your fantasy playoffs is the lead guy, or maybe bye weeks. Who knows? There's a lot of variables. It's hard to predict in June, but I just know how much the Ravens really like this guy, and they really think that he can be a lead back. I mean, they talked about all offseason leading up to the draft, or even free agency, how they're going to go out there and get themselves a, quote, game-breaking running back. They didn't do that. They didn't go out and get anybody. They signed 3 undrafted rookies. That's the entire moves that they made here. I think they're camp bodies more than anything. I doubt these guys make the roster. Kenneth Dixon has an opportunity to win this starting role, and if he does, he is going to shoot up draft boards. So he's a guy to keep your eye on for sure because he burned people if you drafted early last year. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I really like him as being kind of you guys' guy. And that's the thing they're talking about. Oh, we need a game breaker. You know what? I'd like to see Dixon get the opportunity to be that guy. I think he can do it. And I think you guys, it would behoove your offense to use him in that way because when you do have that kind of running back, your offense is a completely different animal.
Oh, yeah.
So I definitely think that with Kenneth Dixon being the lead guy, that would benefit you guys greatly.
I mean, Kenneth Dixon got Ray Rice comparisons, and so I think that's something that the Ravens really like, obviously. So I don't know. Yep. He's basically going undrafted, which is why I'm saying he's a guy you should definitely be keeping an eye on because you could get yourselves a starting running back with your throwaway last pick. So could be awesome. Jason, let's do one more for you, and then we'll get out of here. We'll save the rest of these for Patreon.
Which one of my deep sleepers do you think I should go with, the running back or the tight end? Which one do you want to hear about?
Let's go tight end.
Tight end. All right, cool. We'll end it with a tight end. That's
appropriate. I like
that's
it.
Apropos because a lot of people end their whole draft with a tight end. All right, so let's talk about Vance McDonald, tight end, Pittsburgh. So here's a guy that came into the league with very much hype, and he was a very big prospect. Everybody liked him. He went over to San Francisco. And he had a couple decent years there with Kaepernick and so on and so forth, but he never really stuck. He never really hit the way that everybody kind of expected him to. So he's been kind of an afterthought recently. Well, now he is in Pittsburgh, and you got to look at his last year. He didn't do too much. It was like 24 catches total in the entire season. But then in the playoffs, in one game against the Jags, he caught 10 catches for 112 yards. That showed just how good he can be if he's targeted and if he is used. I feel like being in an offense that he's in now with Pittsburgh, with the number of mouths they have to feed, it sounds like maybe he would be lost in the shuffle, but I think it's going to be the other way around. I think that people are going to be so focused on stopping Antonio Brown, stopping Le'Veon Bell, that Vance McDonald is going to get an opportunity to get some touchdowns. And that's really what you want from tight ends. You want them in the end zone. You want them catching touchdowns. And we've seen that Ben Roethlisberger can do that. He can target his tight ends in the end zone and get them some yardage or some points rather. So I like Vance McDonald in this particular situation. I think he is going to surprise a lot of people. And at the moment, he's undrafted. So talk about taking a shot on somebody with your 15th pick.
Well, I think there's good reason for that, and this is why I wanted you to talk your narrative behind it, because Jesse James is still in the building and currently slated to be the starter. So are you predicting Vance McDonald will supplant Jesse James as the starter, or do you think he'll earn that during the season, or do you think this will be two tight end sets? What's your thought process behind Vance McDonald here?
Well, I definitely think jumbo packages and two tight end sets are going to be good for them. They're going to want to use that when they get into the red zone. And McDonald, in my opinion, has a better opportunity at creating separation from coverage than does Jesse James. I like Jesse James. I really do. But I think Vance McDonald is going to supplant him probably mid-season. You know, he won't be great in the beginning of the season. He's a new face in a new place. He's got to kind of prove himself to this offense. But I really do think that Vance McDonald has the opportunity to be that guy, to be a pass catcher. I think he's a better pass catching option than Jesse James is.
Interesting. I'm intrigued. That's why I wanted you to talk about it, because I honestly don't know how I feel about Vance McDonald. I agree. I think he's a great talent that was incredibly underutilized in San Francisco. Really the dumpster fire that was the 49ers the last couple of years. Obviously last year they're kind of getting rolling now with Kyle Shanahan there, but Jesse James is a bigger tight end, and he has proven that he has pass-catching ability. So that's why I was just more interested to your narrative here more than anything. That's why it's a deep sleeper and not just a typical post-hype guy, because he's going undrafted typically.
This is post hype.
Post. If I'm in a deeper league or a two tight end league, I might take a shot at him, because what do I have to lose there? But yeah, interesting. I hadn't thought about him winning the job, but I could see a world where he does. So yeah, that's it. I don't really have a narrative to add. I was just curious your thoughts there. So with that, I guess let's get out of here. It's a good 50-minute show. There we go. We hit our threshold. So everybody, Jason's not going to be here now. I have to push the mock again. So we'll have. It's okay. We'll have something to talk about on Friday. Don't you worry. We always do. And we will see you guys then. So again, make sure you guys follow us wherever you're listening. Subscribe, rate, review. Helps the show out a ton, more than I could ever say. Follow us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. You can submit your questions over there as well. We get a lot of our questions there. Direct messages if you want to keep it private. If you got your friends that monitor you don't want them seeing your question. Send us your messages, guys. We've been answering a lot of stuff, and we're always down to answer more. Facebook is easy. Email at thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. You have a lot of resources at your disposal. Also, you can follow us individually. I'm at GPalmerFFF. Jason is at JaceCabrera13, and you get to know us a little bit there as well, because we're not always just posting about football, which is kind of fun. But, yeah, any parting thoughts before we sign off, Jason?
Guys, take care. We'll see you soon, and thanks for stopping by the show again.
There you go. Yeah, Jason, we are like 2 months away. We're in 2 months' time. We will be drafting.
It's creeping up.
Our league of record will have drafted by now in 2 months. I'm so excited. All right, so or will it? Wait, when is the draft date? Isn't it? Did I say it was 26? I don't know. Whatever. Side note. So, yeah, either way, about 2 months away. Super excited. It's almost here, guys. It's getting so exciting. And, maybe that's what we're talking about. Oh, that would be a kick in the nuts for you, though. I was going to say, what if we start talking about auction on Friday? I don't know. We're going to think about it.
Of course.
All right, guys. We're out of here. Take care. Have a great weekend. We will see you on Tuesday. Take care, guys. Bye. Or no, see you on Friday. Today was Tuesday. I'm dumb. Bye, guys.
Yes, you are.